Dinner Time. Written by Winslow Swan. Audiobook narrated and produced by Edward James Beesley.
It was a rather nasty accident.
The old woman looked down on Phil, who was lying on a rather dirty sofa in a rather dirty living room of a rather dirty old house. "Oh, what happened?" Phil asked.
"Took that blind curve a little too fast,"
she said, tending to a wound on his leg. "Oh, I don't remember that," Phil said.
"Well, you do have a nasty bump on your head," she said, gently touching his temple. "You are going to have a nice goose egg up there, but I don't think that it is too serious."
Phil tried to sit up and a wave of nausea hit his stomach.
Now, young man,"
the old woman said, patting his head gently.
"You just lie still and let Granny Smith take care of you."
Phil did as he was told, noticing the rags covered in blood wrapped around his leg. The dull, throbbing pain that was in his leg had begun to creep up to his thigh. He carefully felt his forehead and winced as his fingers felt the bump that was indeed beginning to swell. His eyes were heavy, yet he knew that he must not pass out. He tried to remember the accident, or what had even brought him out to the remote location that he now found himself in.
"Now,"
said Granny Smith as she entered into the living room,
"let's see if this will help a little."
She placed a cold, damp cloth onto Phil's forehead. He felt almost relief from the pain. "Oh, thank you," he said.
"That's all right, young man,"
she said, her tone jovial.
"The bump isn't as bad as I thought. However, your leg is going to need some attention that I may not be able to provide. Don't you worry about it. My son will be home and he can take care of things."
Phil felt a small pang of panic course through his chest. "Your son?" he asked.
"Yes,"
she said with a smile.
"He had to go out to the city today to pick up a few things for me. I thought I might cook up something special for dinner."
"Oh, I am sorry to be a bother," Phil said.
"Oh, it's no bother at all,"
she said, removing the soiled rags from his leg and checking the wound.
"Oh, the bleeding has stopped, so that's a good sign."
She placed a clean cloth on the wound.
"Now, what brings you out to this neck of the woods?" she asked.
To be honest, I really don't know," he said.
"Oh, perhaps you were just out for a little country drive," she surmised. "Quite a few people still do that, you know. Even with the price of petrol the way it is, they still find the money and the time to take a nice quiet drive somewhere or nowhere in particular."
"Yes," Phil agreed, not really sure what to say. "That must have been what happened."
"I believe that you took that curve just down the road a bit too fast. Most people don't see it until they get right on it. Oh, I have seen quite a number of wrecks out on the road. As I said, don't worry, my son will be here and everything will be right as rain. Now," she continued, "I need to get dinner started."
Phil watched the old woman disappear again into what he assumed was the kitchen. He tried to adjust himself on the sofa, making the pain in his head a little worse. What the hell was he doing out here? He tried to think back, but nothing was coming forward. He did not even remember what kind of car he had been driving, if indeed he had been driving. Sally. The name seemed to swim up before his aching eyes. He tried to recall who that might have been, and if he did actually know anyone named Sally. Nothing was coming through, and he was getting more and more frustrated.
"Do you like some tea?"
Granny Smith called from the kitchen. Yes, please," Phil shouted back. Perhaps the liquid refreshment would jump-start his brain into working. "Keeps it in the house somewhere." It had been part of a conversation that tried desperately to break through the fog. That much he remembered. The question now was, Keeps what? Was Sally the one that was talking to him? How long ago had it been since that conversation had taken place? Today? Yesterday? Last year? Granny Smith bustled back into the living room with a tray. Sitting it on a table, she poured 2 cups of steaming hot tea from a kettle.
Milk and sugar?
She asked. Just sugar, please. Granny took a small spoon and deposited 2 lumps of sugar into Phil's cup, stirring the tea. Phil thanked her and took a small sip.
Now let's see,
she said, ignoring her own tea.
I wonder if you would mind if I called you Phil. No, don't worry. I found your wallet, and so I know that you are Philip Saunders and that you live in the city. And also found a couple of credit cards and about £10 in cash. Again, don't worry. It's all in a very safe place, at least until my son gets home.
I wasn't worried, Miss Smith, he said politely.
Oh, Granny is fine, my dear boy,
she said sweetly. She adjusted herself in the easy chair, still ignoring the cup of tea. Her face became a little more serious as she continued.
Were you travelling with anyone?
I really wish I knew, he muttered, sipping at the hot brew.
Well, the car has been totally wrecked,
she said.
It is a wonder that you were not killed. But don't worry, my son, when he gets home, will take care of everything.
She had kept telling him that, and now it was only making him more nervous. It was as if she were trying to reassure him over and over again. It was only beginning to get a little unsettling. Phil looked up at Granny. He noticed for the first time the large bottle glasses that magnified her eyes. He thought, but only for a moment, that she had the eyes of a shark, cold and black, circling its prey before taking the fatal bite. I don't want to put anyone out, Phil said.
Oh, it won't be a bother at all, young man,
she said, smiling broadly.
My son'll be home soon, since it's close to dinner time. I always have something in the oven for him, something very special. Oh, he has such particular tastes when it comes to meals, and I do try to indulge him when I can.
Lives alone, in the middle of nowhere. Another snatch of a conversation swam before his mind. He tried desperately to remember who the hell Sally was, and what he was doing out in this part of the world. He felt sure that something very important had been said, but he couldn't remember anything. His head had begun to pound again, and he felt the bump.
Rather nasty, isn't it?
Granny asked, still holding that wide smile. She had said it, at least the way Phil took it, as something more menacing than a normal question. The tone of her voice, something about the way she had enunciated the word nasty, seemed to Phil as being foreboding. Maybe I could just walk to the town, Phil said. I could hitch a ride off the main road. That way your son would not have to make an extra trip.
No, you can't do that,
she said, a little more forcefully than she had intended. She caught herself and smiled again and said,
Oh, I mean, the main road is at least 2 miles away. I really don't think that you should put that much pressure on your leg.
Phil adjusted his leg and another pain shot through him, making him wince. Yeah, I guess you're right, he admitted. A fortune. That word, swimming through his mind, he definitely recognized. Something else was trying to break through. A sound of some sort. He closed his eyes briefly to will it to his conscious mind.
Would you like a little more tea?
She asked. No, thank you, he said, sipping again.
Well then, I will just go check on Sally,
she said, and bustled out of the room. Sally? Yes, that was definitely what she had said. Apparently she knew Sally as well. Maybe he had been travelling with Sally, and they had been in the accident together, and now Granny had her in another part of the house, taking care of an injury. Phil, look out! That was the sound. The phrase that he had been trying to remember. The screeching of the brakes as the tyres slid on the dirt road. Phil trying to avoid the obstruction that seemed to appear from nowhere on the road. The scream of the pretty blonde girl that grabbed his arm as the car barreled through the barbed wire that had been carefully laid across the road. Everything was beginning to come back to him now, and the fear had begun to creep into his chest. "Are you sure?" Phil had asked Sally. "Have I ever been wrong?" she had asked him. The couple was staying in a run-down apartment, hustling for whatever they could get. Sally would occasionally sell her body to both male and female alike. Phil would break into whatever business or home had the potential for the most money. "This could be the big one, baby," Sally had said as she started to unzip his trousers, reaching in for his manhood, hard and long. "Why, you think?" he had said, moaning slightly at her delicate touch. "Tell me about it." "Well," Sally had said with a smile, slowly stroking him, "it's an old woman. Lives about 20 miles from town off the main road. I heard her son talking in the store to the pharmacist. It seems he has been trying to convince her to move somewhere else a little closer. And she told the guy that she has plenty of money stashed away. Doesn't trust banks, he says." Sally slowly fell to her knees, watching Phil get bigger and harder. "She must keep it in the house somewhere," she continued. "It will be a cakewalk, baby." "Oh, just fucking suck me," he told her. Then the drive out to the country, down the dirt road, the appearance of barbed wire in the middle of the road, put there deliberately, and finally the crash into the large oak tree. After that, there was nothing but blackness and tea. And a wave of fear washed over him as he heard Granny in the kitchen saying, "You're coming along nicely." Phil looked around for something, anything that he might use to defend himself. Nothing. He tried to stand up, but the pain in his leg and the wave of nausea forced him back onto the sofa. He heard Granny humming some nonsensical tune, bustling about what he assumed was the kitchen. "Phil, look out!" Sally's voice came again, screaming in terror as the car careened off the road, 2 tires shredded by the barbed wire. The tree looming in front of them as the car crashed directly into it filled his fevered mind. "Oh, Sally is coming along, which is a good thing," Granny said as she came back into the living room, wiping her hands on a towel. "Since my son should be coming home at any time." "No, really," Phil said, shifting his weight, trying to get into a better position to defend himself. "You know," she said, sitting on the easy chair, "I really didn't expect you to survive." What do you mean?" he asked, terror beginning to rise in his voice. He looked at her a little more closely and noticed how large her black eyes were. "Well," she began, her voice low and menacing, "Phil usually puts the barbed wire out onto the road before he leaves, but I guess he is getting a little forgetful now, so old Granny had to take care of it." "You put the wire on the road?" Phil asked, astonished that this little old woman was capable of doing such a thing. "Of course. I told you, dear boy. It is close to dinner time," Granny said, and smiled. "Where the hell is Sally?" he asked forcefully. "Oh, I told you. Oh, she's coming along nicely. My son has particular tastes when it comes to his diet. I am so happy that she is, or rather was, a blonde." Phil tried. He really tried. He leapt at Granny, his hands outstretched, clawing at the old woman, trying to find her soft flesh around her throat. Granny simply stepped back and watched the young man fall helplessly to the floor, blood beginning to ooze again from the wound on his leg. She laughed, and the sound made Phil shudder. He tried desperately to raise himself up again, but only managed to turn over onto his back. He looked up at the old woman, looming over him. Her smile seemed to grow larger and larger. Her teeth elongate into large fangs. Not the fangs of an ordinary wolf or dog, but razor-sharp fangs on every tooth the woman had in her mouth.
Don't you want to say it?
She asked as she bent down close to his face. Granny, Phil managed, realizing the irony of his death.
Yes, dear boy,
Granny Smith said, her hair wild and unkempt, her claws that had replaced her hands stroking his cheek. What big teeth you have, Phil said, as Granny laughed. I'm home, David said, entering into the house. The first thing he noticed was the remains of something human on the living room floor. Blood had spattered over everything, and he just knew that his mother would want him to clean it up.
Oh, hello, dear,
Granny Smith said as she came from the kitchen. Oh, you just couldn't wait for me, David asked, licking his lips.
Well,
she began.
I do know how you like yours, so here I have been all day cooking up something special just for you. Don't worry about the mess in the front room. I'll take care of it.
I saw the car against the tree, David said. I can get rid of it after I eat.
You hungry, dear?
Granny asked. Ravenous, he said, his own claws beginning to form. What did you make? Granny grinned and said,
Sally. Epilogue. The butler did it.
Have you heard any good books lately? Audiobooks from Winslow Swan, now available on Spotify.
Chills run up and down your spine. There's a creeping sensation at the back of your neck. You're listening to Doorway to Nightmare. Join me, Artemis Black, as we venture through into a world of the strange and uncanny. Here's a sample of what we mean.
But don't you hear her? She must be somewhere nearby.
Henry, there is no child anywhere around. Please come inside.
Little girl, show yourself. It's all right. We don't want to hurt you. Are you telling me, Ruth, that you don't hear her?
No, Henry, I don't. Because there is no child.
Join us. We will be lurking for you.
If you'd like to support us, visit our merchandise store. T-shirts, caps, mugs, and so much more. Visit doorwaytonightmare.com today.